Hey, what's up? It's the Captain. And before we start episode number 1 here of the Skalacast, just want to kind of give you a heads up on a couple things. This was recorded on Monday. So obviously since then, the IndyCar and iRacing deal has come together. And now NASCAR and Netflix have a deal together. And they were brought up during this episode. So just want to kind of give you the heads up and keep you up to par with what's going on, as this was done on Monday when we recorded this, just running a little behind with getting this posted. So just a heads up. Otherwise, enjoy the Skalacast. Hope you like it. All right, here we go with episode number 1 of the Skalacast. We've already made it 10 seconds. That right there is a plus.
Yes, sir.
As we welcome you into something that, has been worked on for a little bit now, and something that, hopefully you will enjoy when it's all over with. It's a podcast about iRacing / racing with some interviews and so on and so forth, but either way, going to be a good time. I am the captain, or Chris Skala. Needless to say, this is episode number 1, so appreciate you listening. Matt Telder is here. Mr. Excitement's his nickname he goes by, but I've got about 50 of them for you.
I think everybody has about 50 for me. Most of them are not
Friendly.
PG rated.
Exactly. And then there's Stephen Miles, who's learning how to road race all of a sudden.
Yeah, Wheelman, Stephen Wheelman Miles. That's what they call me.
The Wheelman. That's facts. I mean, he's already got more wins in 3 years than I have in 13 on iRacing. So
It's not hard to beat Zero Scala.
that's fair.
Yeah.
That is very fair. So, with that said, a lot of things going to go on here throughout this podcast. As I said, we're going to talk racing. We're going to talk some iRacing stuff. A lot of new things that have gone on. And, of course, with it being January, we're a little over a month away from the Daytona 500 and NASCAR season kicking off. We got IndyCar coming up, usually at the end of February, with the St. Pete race, but they got their own little situation going on right now with a video game. Well, that's been going on for a little over a year now. And then F1 has made an interesting decision. Well, at least their broadcast partner, Sky Sports, did. Has a little bit of maybe some controversy with this decision, we'll say, but we'll talk about that here in a second. But I guess we should go ahead and let these guys introduce themselves. I mean, you probably know me if you've heard my voice from doing the broadcast and stuff, but Matt, why don't you introduce yourself to the world so everybody knows who you are, and hopefully they'll know more of you later.
Yeah, those of you that have raced in the leagues know who I am, but I am Matt Telder, a.k.a. Mr. Excitement. It's always a great show when I'm involved in some sort of situation in a race. Gonna make it entertaining at the end of the day. But yeah, iRacing for 4 years now. Been racing Skala's broadcasted races for betterment of 2.5 years. That's how I met him. But yeah, looking forward to this whole podcast. Got a lot of important information coming out. A lot of stuff people may miss in the news, stuff like that. Updates of leagues, all that good stuff. Miles, what do you got?
I'm Stephen Miles, man. Been out racing for 2 going on 3 years. I raced in real life, legend cars, ARCA trucks, factory stock dirt cars. I build chassis since 2013, and from Louisiana, had a son in Georgia, moved out here, gave up some stuff, and got into iRacing, man. And now I'm hooked, racing 7 days out of the week. And most of them on the Captain Esports Network, one of the best networks out there. And I'm looking forward to this, man. I feel like I'm just a racer. I just want to talk about racing. I just love it. That's all I'm here for.
This man watches more of my streams, and needless to say, here I'm going to use the word practices a lot more. He's probably practiced more in a week than I have in my whole entire iRacing life, which probably explains a lot of things. But it's good to have you guys on there. I know we talked like before we introduced this whole thing. We're like, I know Telder and I talked like a year ago. We're like, dude, let's do a podcast sometime. And at first it was going to be a fun thing. And then Miles was like, dude, you got to do a podcast. And then my wife was like, honey, you got to do a podcast. And others were like, dude, you need to do a podcast. And I'm like, all right, fine, I'll do a podcast. And here we are. So I told these two they can come with me and we'll go enjoy the ride. So, all right, that's enough about that. Let's get into the fun stuff here, shall we? So I wanted to think a little bit about the top news on the NASCAR side because obviously some things have gone on, some moves have happened. With drivers going either up to the Cup Series, back down to Xfinity, or moving teams and that kind of thing. But like one that caught my eye was a move that was made by Stewart-Haas Racing and their new logo that they revealed on Monday. But the news of Noah Gragson, and I bring him up because I feel like this is deja vu again. Now, this is apples to oranges when you think of Kyle Larson to Noah Gragson. Of course, Noah went out and liked a post on social media that he probably shouldn't have liked. And of course, we know Kyle Larson's story with the racial slur and stuff. And Larson goes from getting canned from Chip Ganassi Racing to Hendrick Motorsports and wins a championship. And now you got Noah Gragson that pretty much walks away, he put in a letter of resignation pretty much to the Legacy Motor Club team. Walks away and now is with Stewart-Haas Racing. So does this not seem to me, Matt, I'll let you answer this first. Does it not seem to me that Noah Gragson just upgraded because of a mistake in his life?
Yeah, I mean, it's always gonna like the same as like Larson. It's gonna be one of those things that always just hangs over his head at the end of the day. It's always gonna be, when Noah Gregson's name gets brought up, there's probably always gonna be those few people out there that same with Larson that know what he did or said or liked on social media. I'm gonna guess the whole letter of resignation part was an agreement between the two of them to basically like, hey, well, for our own publicity, we're gonna let you go, but if you do this, then we'll give you the compensation for this,
Right.
stuff like that. But I would say, yeah, obviously, I mean, we know what Stewart-Haas is capable of. We've seen it. Are they back to where they should be? Who knows? They seem to be making a lot better strides toward the end of the season. But yeah, I think it's an upgrade overall. Legacy is just in the middle of all the confusion of switching manufacturers, new ownership. I'm sure there's some drama with Petty being kind of almost disbanded from his own team type deal. So yeah, I think it's an upgrade overall, in my opinion. But it's all solely based on what Stewart-Haas brings to the table performance wise. That's going to determine a lot.
Yeah, I feel that.
No, go ahead, Miles.
Yeah, I feel that. It's a complete upgrade, man. I think he'll do well over there. Just the stable over there. They have, unique drivers over there. I don't see a leader, but they have a stall of some good drivers. Chase Briscoe, Josh Berry. Like I can't wait to see Josh Berry and then Ryan Priest. But what really got me thinking about it is Drew Blickendorfer, the two-time Daytona 500 crew chief that they matched him up with. So I figured that he's gonna have a good chance of winning, man, because he's in that Ford and them Fords run good on the super speedway. So I think it's an upgrade.
Well, wouldn't that be something to see Noah win the 500 or something in that 10 car?
Yeah,
That would be
yeah,
interesting. I saw,
really.
was it Titleist or I forget the sponsor off sudden off the top of my head here. I'll have to research it real quick. But I believe there was a some kind of golf sponsorship that he has picked up on that car. I saw a picture of the car recently too, so it looks like he's got some good things going for him. But yeah, that's just something that caught my eye, and I'm just like, man, is anybody else noticing that this seems like an upgrade for Gragson after a mistake he made, and it just kind of caught my eye. So that's on the NASCAR side. Of course, you got plenty of other things like Carson Hocevar is now with Spire. You got Zane Smith in a Spire slash Trackhouse car. Thank you. Yeah, he's like a rental out to Spire from Trackhouse. But then you got, ready for pronunciation lessons for everybody, Shane Van Gisbergen. Was that so hard to pronounce? Anyways, who's now in Trackhouse and is going to run some races, of course, including the Daytona 500. But here's the part, and this has always caught my eye, and I'm kind of glad they're doing this. And I know I didn't kind of put this on, but I might find it ironic he's got to run the ARCA race to run the next
Oh,
series up.
Well, he need to get all the experience he can, really.
Well, at the end of the day, though, yes, is he qualified to run the Daytona 500? Probably. His list of accolades is nothing short of spectacular. But
Yeah.
coming over here, those are the rules. You know, you want to run the series, you got to abide by the rules. Will he get killed in an ARCA wreck? Probably.
He might win the race.
Probably.
Who knows? He
Probably.
might. Let's just hope he don't turn left into the infield on the first lap. But needless to say,
We can somebody go find Brayton Laster. He was a pretty good ramp the last time we were there.
no. Hey, he's gonna be in that ARCA race too, so he's
that poor pizza man.
he's in that ARCA race. I think he just got a ride this week, they announced. But man, that's awesome. So so SVG, and as a matter of fact, he's running the Xfinity race on that day on Saturday afternoon. So he's got to run the ARCA race and then right into the Xfinity car if he does well or something. I forget how that works out this week or that week in February.
I think he has to run like minimum speed for a certain duration of laps. I think is how it works out.
There you go. So
I looked into it before, and I can't off the top of my head. I'm drawing a blank on what the specifics of it were.
So just look at it like this: you've got a Cup winner. Let's be real, a Cup winner who's got to qualify for the Daytona 500 in ARCA car. Something sounds wrong there.
The irony behind it is hilarious. But I mean, like I said, those are the rules. So I mean, we can all agree. Like even virtually racing Daytona, there's a major difference between running the Chicago street circuit and running the Daytona 500.
Yeah.
Not for me. Either one, I don't finish usually. Just saying.
Real quick though, before we move on to something else, what do we think of the new Stewart-Haas logo?
It's got to grow on me. I mean, it's one of those. It seems like another one of those back to basic type of logos, but it's almost like the way people are going these days.
See, I'm a like futuristic type of guy. I always have been, so I like the logo.
Okay.
I like the combined letters, the just subtle colors of it.
Mm-hmm.
But did you see the way that when they posted it or whatever? Did you see the way they described the color scheme for it?
I did not see that part.
So basically, like you've seen it, it's blue, white, and black, right?
Right.
So when they posted it on Twitter, they posted with the tag "New look, same DNA." Check out our new brand identity, and it says, and like there's a picture of the logo on half the picture, right? The new logo. Then on the right side of the post, it says Stewart-Haas, where it says banner blue and has the blue color code, has badass black with the hex code for it, and then smoky white.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Wow.
That's how they combined. That's how they made their logo, was based on those colors and the description of them.
Is that like a powder blue?
Yeah, it's almost like a Carolina blue is what it is.
Yeah, that would make sense. No, and the futuristic, like with the font and that kind of thing is cool. It just, I don't know. It seems like a lot of these logos and maybe even some of these paints that you see anymore, it's almost like they're trying to go back to the future, like some more of a generic looking paint, but with like a color scheme that makes it look newer or looking into the future. That's kind of how I catch that. And I think with that font, that's exactly what I see here, but I don't have a problem with it.
I like it personally.
No.
I'm a fan of it.
Absolutely. So we'll see.
You keep talking about paint schemes. Dalton Carter's going to come in here yelling about number placement and stuff like that. So we probably should move on from this topic before that happens.
Move the number forward, right? Anyways, let's move on to open wheel cars, IndyCar. So this the IndyCar news that I think is going to be the big story here as we go into the season. Yes, there's been some moves, and of course there's the talks of can Scott Dixon get that record championship and the wins total record this season. Of course, the changes of not going to Texas Motor Speedway this year for the first time. If that is not a smack in the face to Texas Motor Speedway or a wake-up call that maybe they ought to think about putting the track back the way it was, I don't know what else will be. But
well, you know the reason why they don't want to run there, right?
Well, in the end, I guess it was like a conflict of dates or something.
It's the residents on the track.
Oh, well, that
it's not safe. The IndyCar driver said it was not safe.
Yeah, the PJ1 basically what you're talking, or whatever it was.
Yeah, the PJ1. Yeah, whatever they put, the resin they put on there. Like I don't know if you watched it last year. The cars were all over the place.
Yeah. Well, the last 2 years they've had to run the Will Powers Happy Hour, if you will,
Yeah,
and go up there and just run cars at a slow speed just to kind of wear it in or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah, because only about half the track was usable
right,
at the time.
right.
So they literally had to go out there and like you see the dirt packers packing a dirt track down. They essentially had to go prep the racetrack,
Yeah,
which then in turn cost them more money and tires and all that stuff.
that's never a good thing. Yeah, that's I almost wonder if somebody overthought that, but I think that's another topic for another day. Is the resin? Maybe when we get to a track with resin on it.
If we have an IndyCar based podcast, we're gonna have to call Daniels up. So and we're just gonna sit
there's
back
a
and let him.
few people we'll bring
Yeah.
in. Daniels, Gary Godso, I could probably bring in here. I mean, there's a few people. Jim Herrick, we can get him in here. That'll be a whole nother podcast for another day.
I'm sure we can find Julian. I'm sure he's not doing too much at this time.
I would hope he's sleeping right now. It's a good point, though. Hey, let's. So the IndyCar topic I think that we need to talk about. And this one connects to iRacing a lot, and of course we know it was about this time last year, wasn't it, where they announced that, hey, we're kind of taking IndyCar off of iRacing per se, the license. So basically, they'd change the names to the U.S. Open cars and just do all these different things. They stopped streamers from streaming IndyCar races of the IR18, the IR05, and the DW12, I think was the other car that you weren't allowed to stream anymore. At least they told us we weren't allowed to. I'm sure people, and I've seen, you mentioned Julian, I've seen plenty of people out there kind of putting stuff on the air, and I was just like, you know what, I'm not even going to touch it. They say we can't do it, I ain't touching it. And now Motorsports Games, they go and get to purchase the license for IndyCar. They're about to put this phenomenal game out there, and then it all just falls apart. So they've pretty much have completely crashed, no pun intended, and have said, okay, yep, we're not releasing the IndyCar game, and IndyCar is now back in talks with iRacing to come back in. So what has come to my mind in this whole thing is this one of those things where once IndyCar, or I say once because it seems like it's a done deal, it's just not official yet. Once it's done and they're back on iRacing, you think they get the people back that maybe they've lost with this whole thing? Is it gonna? Do you see the same people coming back to race, or do you see this like, you know what, you burned this bridge already? I'm done racing with you.
You're gonna have the diehards that are always gonna come back. That like, I mean, you still look at the official series; they're still heavily populated. There's still quite a few IndyCar leagues running out there in the backwoods, under the shadows. I think it makes a solid comeback. Obviously, like you look at a league like Lionheart, that was their premier series.
Big time.
Obviously, they have usually there's a waiting list to get even an invite to run on the practice team in their IndyCar league, and they have open spots right now.
Yeah, and they had to. Well, at first they had to run. You had to run the retro to even get into.
Yeah. You had to run retro for a full season, and then your performance and where if you caused any avoidable contact and like that was all subjected to a board for you even to get an invite to run practice with the IndyCar guys.
They take it a little
to later be determined to get into the actual IndyCar roster. That was for anybody that doesn't really know. Obviously, iRacing has the Coke Series,
right,
the Pro Series. They on the roadside they run Formula One cars for the Pro Series, and Dirt has its own Pro Series, stuff like that. This was about the closest you could get to a pro road league. Yeah. Was the Lionheart IndyCar Series?
Yeah, and they had. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And when they took broadcasting rights away from it, obviously with the licensing, that participation for that league fell off horribly. They still fielded a decent field of cars, but you could tell who was there because of what the clout of that league was. I don't know many other leagues out there that have the driver skill level, the prize purse, the sponsorship that league possesses. So that hurt them a lot.
Yeah, they were probably the most effective because of the fact that they were so big. I mean, they've got a company like RaceSpot broadcasting their stuff. They got an award-winning broadcaster, and I always get his name. It's Arjuna, right?
Arjuna.
I always want to say Arjuni. It's Arjuna. So sorry about that. But no, obviously top-notch stuff everywhere. And then George runs a top-notch league. You mentioned the sponsorships that are out there. I mean, these are national sponsors on this on these cars in the league. You've got, I mean, Sage Karam ran there for a little bit. To just name one of the few drivers, Richie Hearn, who's a former IndyCar winner, he still races over there. So the league's a big deal, and I know, like, I've been helping Luke a little bit when he's raced. I know Telder's just started racing over there, and they're seeing the challenges of how tough this league is, and it's definitely got its
It's a
uphill
very
climb.
very
No
humbling
kidding.
experience.
Okay, so Miles, you
I
want to
thought I
drive?
knew what I was doing on road. I don't know what I'm doing on road.
So Miles, you want to drive an open wheel car?
Nah, I'm good. I can have that.
Miles likes his fenders.
Yes, he likes.
Yeah, I like fenders and I like being inside a closed area. I don't like my head sticking out anywhere.
10-4 on that.
You tall anyway, so I can see that.
What about me?
Scala,
I'm like 6 foot tall.
You crew chief.
Scala, we put a phone book in the seat just so you can see over the
Yeah,
dashboard.
10-4 on that. Wait a minute, I'm not Dean. Anyways, so let's you got the wrong Chris. So no, that I find that interesting, and I hope it didn't leave a black eye for iRacing drivers, because I know there were a lot of drivers that I remember seeing on social media when the whole thing was announced that were like, hey, you know what, I'm not watching an IndyCar race now or whatever, because they were that mad that they took away everything from iRacing. I mean. So I hope that they get this back and get it back rolling, and who knows, maybe we'll be back to, I mean, I heard plenty of open wheel races for IndyCar for VOR, because I know Telder, we'll talk about that later, his debut in that league. Of course, TI with Chris Lewis, our guest later. He obviously had his own IndyCar league for a little bit. You mentioned Lionheart. There's so many leagues out there that I'm sure would love to flip the switch and go back to those open wheel cars. So there's that. And then on the F1 side, now, I'm going to be honest, I don't watch much F1 because, well, like last season, how many times, Telder, in Discord did I say, as you guys are staying up till like 3 in the morning or getting up at 3 in the morning to watch a race out in Malaysia or something, and I'm like, well, you guys go, you guys can stay up all you want to. Max Verstappen's going to win. I'm going to bed. Good night.
Facts.
It was quite often.
I mean, okay, exactly. But the topic I want to bring up is Danica Patrick. So Danica does the 2 races. She did 2 races for Fox the last 2 years, which I think got more negativity than positive remarks. She does the pre-race for IndyCar, which, let's be real, I thought she did okay with that. I mean, she knows those cars the most. And then Sky Sports brings her over to do F1. And, of course, she made some pretty interesting comments at the end of the season last season, and kind of can say some interesting comments and that kind of thing. So was this a good move on Sky Sports' part?
I don't think so. Not. It's not because she's a female or anything like that. It's just
right.
It's a straight not like. I remember watching one of the. I think it was the U.S. Grand Prix at COTA when they had her on there at pre-race, and I can't tell you how many times the 4 or 5 of us that were sitting in a call together were like, "What did she just say?" Like, IndyCar, when she did the IndyCar broadcast, yes, she drove those cars. She's knowledgeable in those. It's a very fitting environment. When she seems to be like extending herself outside of her knowledge, as I guess would be the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
And you can tell when she's trying to a point she's trying to make, but doesn't have literally the experience to explain what she's trying to say. So then it comes out all wonky and just like confusing and like I said, what did she just say? So I don't know, like maybe it'll work out. I'm always one for giving people chances,
Absolutely.
but it's like I guess it'll be one of those things we'll just have to let the test of time see. I wouldn't have gone that route. I mean, like, I see the appeal to the US to bring her in there. But like outside of the US, how many other countries know who she really is?
Japan.
Yeah, because she won Motegi in a rain shortened race. Not the point. But outside of that, like, do you think anybody in the UK really knows that much about her or who she is or anything? Probably not.
Here's how I look at this whole situation. I feel like it's a fish out of water type thing. Obviously, yes. Danica knows her IndyCar stuff. But what about Dale Jr.? Let's bring him for an example. You put Dale Jr. on the Indy 500 broadcast. kind of doesn't fit. I mean, yeah,
It,
he has
it
the
seemed
appeal.
it seemed out of place. It seemed out of place.
He has the appeal, but you know, it's out of place. Put him at the Kentucky Derby. Again, he has the appeal. He's kind of out of place. I feel the same thing. It's like a fish out of water here. Danica
And
at an F1
I think that's
event.
what Sky Sports is aiming for, is the appeal factor
Right.
of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that. You got to do what you got to do to get the ratings. So, yeah. So see what happens here this season. They're what, March usually they kick off their stuff at well, it used to be Melbourne. Now it's what are they, Malaysia or something like that now, I think. Is where they start.
You know what they should have done? Whoever's in control of Sky Sports should have went to whoever created the Drive to Survive show and said, "Hey, who do you think we should put on here as a broadcast?" Because the amount of people I know now that watch Formula One solely because of that show
Yeah.
is mind blowing.
Yeah, that's
Like
true.
people I would never expect to know what a race car is, I hear talking about at work. Like, oh yeah, F1 race this weekend. I'm like, what did you just say?
That's true.
Just like people you would never ever think that ever don't even know what a race car is, all of a sudden watch Formula One religiously because of that show.
You wonder if maybe that's because F1's become more of an entertainment than racing, and I don't mean that is that's going to sound terrible when it comes to like racing itself.
Did you just call Formula One WWE? Because that's what it sounded like.
Yeah, it did.
I'm not going there, but you know, but I mean, think about the event that use Las Vegas for an example. I mean, the whole entire week, the race came to Vegas. Yeah, the race was talked about, but it seemed like everything around the track in Vegas was talked about. Like Vegas was the event, and then there was a race there too.
Yeah, Vegas was an event. That was
That's
not in
what
Formula One. That was an event. Now, however, if you actually watch the race, it was a very good race as far as the season went. And of all the races this season, that was a very, very entertaining race.
I did hear that. I didn't get to see it, and who knows? Maybe I'll sit back and watch a couple this season or whatever. But I don't know.
But see, I mean, did you ever see the interview with Max Verstappen about Vegas when he basically talked shit about it the entire time?
I did not see that.
Yeah, like anyway, you can go on. I guess on Twitter or whatever. You can find it. They interviewed him about asking what he thought about the whole Vegas thing, and he basically says it's a joke.
Sounds
We're out here, 20 of the arguably the best drivers in the entire world, and more people are here for concerts and light shows and stuff like that than they are knowing what we're actually doing here.
Has he not been to Monaco? I think they were reenacting scenes from Driven too, weren't they? Because the manhole covers were coming up.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Luke Daniels is having an aneurysm right now.
you think he's actually listening?
He can't even hear this right now, and his brain, his left shoulder just tingled a little bit. He goes, "Somebody just mentioned Driven. I have to rage."
I've told him
That's
before.
the
And
reason
I'll
I
say
watched
it.
IndyCar.
That movie was actually. I thought it was okay. You know.
I thought it was an okay movie for the time. It was early 2000. I mean, but I don't know a single other person that hates a singular movie more than Luke Daniels hates the movie Driven.
That's fair. All
One
right.
question.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Like you said, the Netflix show for the Formula One or whatever. Why haven't they did that for NASCAR? Like, have they?
They did something for Bubba Wallace.
Well, I'm talking about for multiple teams. Like how they go into the.
I guess their attempt at that was that show that was on at like 11 p.m. on a Sunday night that had like Austin Dillon, and it was on USA.
Oh,
USA
I've seen
show.
that. I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that.
I guess that was kind of their attempt at that.
Okay.
And they're like, "Oh, the ratings suck." Well, no shit. You had it on at 11:30 on a Sunday night.
Yeah.
What do you
on
expect
USA on a cable network?
On USA. Yeah.
I mean, the other one you had. So remember back in the day, about 20 years ago, they had that. Was it NASCAR 24/7 or something like that? And they usually had like 3 or 4 Busch Series or now Xfinity drivers. Like Casey Kane was usually one of them. I think Brad Sweet was another one where they would literally follow them around for a week, and they would go like a timeline and switch to a different driver of like that specific day, what they were doing. And that kind of thing. I remember that was on, I think, Speed Channel like 20 years ago. But no, I mean, that I don't see why they haven't done that yet, because what that did for F1 was grab a generation and a different demographic that had never probably even heard of F1, and it grabbed them. And you know, the biggest struggle NASCAR is having right now is grabbing the generation that's below us, or even maybe most of us of our generation now, because let's face it, we our parents, my dad was one of them that didn't believe in road course racing. He was like, "Oh, they need to take Watkins Glen and Sonoma off the schedule." And that was back when they ran it twice a season, and now we're out there 6 times a season, loving road course racing, but yet we're
That's
in
debatable.
cars. Well, depends. We
There's
got these
way too many
cars.
road courses.
Well, now there is. Yeah, I mean, but how are we gonna know what's too many until we try it, right? So and then we got cars that now you can't even pass at Martinsville because of aerodynamics. so
Yeah.
so there's a fine line there that I know NASCAR's trying to find, but interesting to hear. I agree though with what Telder said about Danica. I think it is more of a move to bring in somebody that is well known than maybe a move about somebody that maybe has knowledge of the sports, like James Hinchcliffe, for example. That dude could cover anything. That's
Agreed.
That man can cover anything.
Agreed.
All right, let's go to iRacing now. Let's get out of real life.
Hold on.
Going.
You got one more big NASCAR news that we didn't talk about right yet.
Oh, you know what? You're right. And I guess it would be kind of NASCAR. I forgot the breaking news, and I knew I didn't put it in my notes, but this happened like Monday. Well, one we'll cover that happened. That's a good thing. The other one, not so good of a thing. But the good thing here, Ray Evernham, who is a former, of course, team owner, former crew chief for Jeff Gordon back in the heyday, and then also helped out with SRX. He and Rob Kaufman, who is a former owner of Michael Waltrip Racing, also was an investor in the Chip Ganassi NASCAR side. He has those two have teamed up and have bought the legal license to iRock, which was the old series that ran back from, I think it was like the 1970s or 80s all the way up to, I think it was around 2010. When Tony Stewart actually ran the series, I believe, for a short time there, and then iRock fell apart. But basically what this used to be is 12 cars of the best drivers from NASCAR, IndyCar, open wheel. I remember Steve Kinzer ran in that series a few times. You had, I think Donnie Schatz even did a couple times. You had NHRA drivers that would run. You had road racers that used to run in that. I remember Tommy Kendall would be in the series. Ron Fellows. Anyways, all these guys would run in 12 cars. They'd be selected for 4 races, and usually the schedule would be like Daytona, Talladega, Indianapolis, Michigan. And they would go out, 12 equally matched cars, and run about 100 miles or so in a race to see who was the race of champions. It was always fun to watch, and looks like
those were always entertaining races.
Oh, big time, especially on the bigger tracks. I mean, they started going to road courses and things, and I'm like, no. See,
yeah, that's where they went downhill. No, you put up Michigan, Fontana, the plate tracks, Texas. That's where they need to be.
Yeah, because at that point, and of course, the first question you think of, well, how do you put open wheel car drivers into a stock car and let them race around Michigan and think it's equal? Well, let me remind you that I think Alonso Jr.'s won a few of these iRock championships.
So, AJ Foyt won 2 of them.
I mean,
Mario Andretti won.
Well, Andretti won everything. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
You put him to soapbox derby, he'll find a way to win it. So I think that's so cool to see, and I hope that goes in the direction. Now we don't know where it's going because obviously it was just purchased today. It's literally just happened.
They released that they plan to host events in 2024.
There you go. How cool would that be? Wonder who would pick them up for a network. That'd be interesting because you got ESPN.
I bet it'd be NBC.
That would be. I mean, they've got the motorsports locked down right now when it comes to it. I mean, they've got open wheel, they've got NASCAR, they've got Superbike or Supercross. I call it Superbikes. And they even got the flat, was it American flat track now? I think it's starting to get a little momentum. So
yeah. Well, that was always the flat track was always on the NBC Sports Network before they got rid of that. So that's why they still have that. You ever watch those flat track motorcycle guys? Those guys are fucking insane.
Yeah, no kidding, right? That's They I mean, they're literally got their knees like laying on the dirt on a dirt track. They'd run like
and the bike is 90 degrees sideways doing 125 mile an hour.
No thanks. I'm good with that. I'm already scared enough when I see like the motocross guys doing that. Like at Laguna Seca, they're going through the corkscrew and their bike is literally like an inch away from going flying from under them. And yeah, I've seen too many bad things happen in that already. But
yeah, when they wreck, it's wild.
Yeah, not pretty. Not pretty. So, all right. The sad news, if you're an ARCA fan, you might have read the news on Tim Steele. Of course, Tim was legendary. I mean, I remember waking up or not waking up. I keep saying waking up in the morning, like they raced in the morning. I would come home from like school or be at a friend's house and come home, turn the ARCA race on if it was on like ESPN or whatever at that time. They'd be at Michigan or Pocono or wherever, and you'd hear the name Tim Steele, and the man would have like a 3-lap lead on the field, and it's like, holy cow, this guy is good. Um,
Yeah, I think there was a span in 96, 97, or 97, 98. I'm a little blurry on the 2 year. It was 2 years consecutive where he won 47 out of 71 races, I believe is what it was.
I think it was 96 and 97 you're talking about. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. He won 9 races at Pocono. Take that, Denny Hamlin. Not to mention, he's the first ever career earner of $1 million in ARCA. So you look at.
You think they boo his rock?
Hey, I don't know. But either way, unfortunately, he was about to announce a cup career. And then, unfortunately, like 10 days before that announcement, got injured and suffered a very severe concussion. He ended up coming back and still winning a couple more races, but had to shut it down.
Was not the same
No,
after that
no.
type deals.
No, unfortunately. And as we've seen, head injuries are a big topic in all of racing and that kind of thing. But, I mean, obviously he was lucky to survive at that point and have a little bit more of a career, but then unfortunately kind of fell there at the end. But, Tim kept going and did what he had to do, but unfortunately passed away at the age of 55 on Sunday, according to his daughter on social media. So definitely thoughts and prayers with the family, but that's one you can go back on like YouTube and watch some of the races that he just, Frank Kimmel, I think you could argue is the GOAT, but Tim Steele definitely had his mark on that series.
Fun fact, he was born 5 minutes down the road from my house.
I was wondering how far that was from you.
Coopersville is a matter. So there's my house, then there's the Marne where the Berlin Raceway is, and an equal distance to Coopersville.
Was his race shop up there?
It used to be, yes.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Good to know. Wow. That's definitely a bummer, but obviously,
his old race shop's now a Tractor Supply.
Wow, random fact. Random fact. Let's move on to iRacing now. We've covered a lot of the real life stuff here, and I started thinking back here the last couple of months. I'm like, all right, what's the biggest story that we've had in iRacing? And I think it's easy to say it's the oval refresh.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
You sound like you don't like it, Miles. I mean,
I haven't really seen much of a difference other than Super Speedway, and I just seen that like last week. So,
can you tell somebody's been road racing a lot here? So basically, what has happened is iRacing pretty much did, I guess, a rescan for a lack of a better way of putting it, and now has a heat surface, basically in the settings or whatever. And now it's one of those things where you're finding the racing groove. It's no longer just put the car down on the white line or put it up against the wall or whatever. It's like you got to kind of search for it. I say that, but I've also hosted a couple of auto club practices and have noticed that there's cars rim riding, and that seems to be the way to go around that track, which would be kind of real life-ish. So, I mean, Telder, you've run plenty of races. I know you ran a C fixed a couple weeks ago at Kern. And some other races, even some short track races. Have you felt anything different?
Yeah, there's definitely, you notice there's a lot of tracks where the high line, or like a lot of short track races are one lane dominant, low lane tracks.
Mm-hmm.
I raced a race at Hickory 2 weeks ago. I drove around 4 cars consecutively on the top.
You did that at the Horseshoe this weekend.
That I did that too, yeah. But yeah, it's even that race. I raced a B Open at Iowa 2 weeks ago. That's always a low line, as low as you can get 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And usually you try to stay low lane 3 and 4 until you burn the right rear up, and then it's against the fence. That race moved from the bottom to the top to the middle, back to the bottom. And by the end of it, you had guys running 3 wide just consistently through turns 3 and 4.
Wow.
Running every line available on that track. And it was noticeable too. Because you'd be on the bottom and you'd be like, oh man, I got no drive off here. All of a sudden, you'd move up a car length, all of a sudden you're picking up 3/10 a lap. It is noticeable at certain tracks. I have noticed.
Which they're obviously be progressive banking, so that's interesting to see. Now, Miles, I know we'll talk a little bit here about the Daytona race. You ran last night or Sunday night in the Sim 500 Xfinity Series race. And I heard some drivers after the race I talked to said that the high line was dominant. Now, don't get me wrong. Super speedway racing on iRacing, usually the high line is the way to go, especially in a truck. The B car, I think, is hit or miss from what I've noticed. But did you notice anything? And I started to wonder after that conversation, did this play a matter on Daytona?
Yeah, I believe it did. The middle lane is basically the preferred lane to get that run. Third lane just hold things up sometimes. But last night in Daytona, you could just tell the more or less you put on the tires, you had to literally let off the throttle to not get loose, enter into the turns too fast, because we was drafting and you get to 190, 188, and you get into the turn and you see people get loose, hit the apron, and that's what most of the wrecks was happening. So literally you had to move up to the middle or the high groove to not feel that looseness. Like, it was crazy. Like, so you could tell who could hold it and who couldn't, and that's when I seen the resurface, wherever they did or whatever. I could tell by that. But with mile and a half in the races I've been doing, it been the same result. And that's say. If I gotta watch my words wisely, I don't want nobody to pick up on what I'm saying. My little tricks.
Fuel.
Yeah, fuel. Let's just say fuel. But yeah, last night was rough, man. After 10, 15 laps, it was like you was kind of dirt tracking it, entering the corner. It was like worse than bumpy Daytona, and that's kind of hard. I mean, that's wild to say,
Wow.
but it was bad.
Well, and that goes back to, and we'll talk about this here in a few minutes, but Sim 500 also sets their race temps or their track temps at max pretty much. So you're out there running on a 130-degree surface in the middle of the day at Daytona, you're going to get loose like that. But obviously, I have not had a chance. I mean, I ran the Charlotte All-Star race in GLSR, which, I mean, it was my second time ever driving the Gen 4 on an oval refresh. So I was out to lunch no matter what in that whole thing. But I'm kind of curious just to see what people think of it, and especially as we get into the schedule. You got Homestead coming up here next week for Sim 500, so I'm interested to see the B car be from the top, hopefully to the bottom, and seeing some great racing there. And then GLSR is at Dover, so that could be an interesting test, because Dover, usually on fresh tires, it's put it on the bottom, and then after about 15 laps, go find a fresh track and hope you don't blow your tires out doing it. So I'm curious to see how that's going to go when it's over with. So the $1 million question here, they say March. Where's the rain?
Yeah, I know. I've been waiting for it.
Being a road,
I'm telling you, I still am telling you, they're gonna drop it in the middle of the night in a 24-hour race. That's when it's gonna happen. They're gonna subtly put it in the setups, like the week of the race. Nobody's gonna catch it.
But they gotta
And
have the tires too, though. They gotta have the rain tires.
I'm
too.
sure they're ready.
That's what I'm saying. They're gonna put it the rain tire option in the setup, and just nobody's gonna pay attention to it because nobody's gonna be looking for it.
Well, yesterday, Telder, Miles, we all ran the VRS endurance race, and it was the first time I had noticed that the windshield wiper actually moved. And I'm like, well, that's a sign of something, because usually there's no reason for the windshield wiper to move.
I don't know why it did that.
Just
man.
putting it
was
out
on that
there.
last week.
I'm
Yeah,
just
last
putting
week
it out
did
there.
that.
Usually there's no reason. Usually you have the crew, when you come to pit road, can take a tear off. You don't usually put the windshield wiper on. So that kind of caught my eye a little bit, and I'm like, maybe iRacing's throwing a little clue at us. Yeah, of course, they would do that, and then they would put out the breaking news on Twitter. Oh, rain's out. But I guess the other thing, too, with that is you're going to know how good your computer is when they do come out with the rain.
Oh, that rain is going to be, as much as I anticipate it, it is going to be an absolute frame killer.
So make sure you have good computers before the rain gets here. If not, you might want to go get some upgrades done. All right. So we talked a little bit about the road racing. 24-hour race coming up here in just a couple of weeks. It's Miles' first endurance race ever that he's ran, and he's lucky because I remember a conversation that was had in the TI Racing channel last year on Discord where we were trying to find a way, and I remember this conversation because we were all like, man, we need to find something else to do to bond. And I remember AB, Alex Bryson was talking about doing things. Miles was talking about doing things. And I was like, well, why don't we run to 24 hours of Daytona together? Miles was like, nah, I ain't doing that, man. I can't even handle doing 3 hours. You want me to do 24? Nah, come on, man. You in Miles form. And here we are, Miles, a year later.
Actually, I said if I did do something like that, I have to be 100% committed to that, which I was not going to be because I was in the middle of I don't know how many leagues racing or whatever. But this year I'm here and I'm learning from y'all, and I mean, hopefully we do good.
You ain't learning nothing from me. Let's get that out of the way right now. I'll teach you how to wreck. Let's put it like that. But obviously, Telder, for you and I, we've run this a bunch. This is probably the most prep I've already done in a race, and I've gotten to drive the GT3. I keep wanting to call it GTD because of habit, because that's what the GT3 car is called at Daytona. But obviously, these GT3 cars, I mean, we've had a chance to run a lot of them. I mean, we've tested out the Merc, we've tested out the BMW, we've tested out the Audi, I believe. Clark's ran about 1 million miles at Spa with the Ferrari.
I joined him in that 2 weeks ago, or
you were
week
trying
13.
to work on,
So
well, you were trying to work on some SR buffer, which is understandable, or IR, one of the two. But you know, we've tried every GT3 car, but the Ford GT. So, what have you noticed?
which actually isn't even a GT3 car anymore.
Oh, there you go. But what have you noticed out of the cars? Like, I mean, I know we've talked about ourselves. We figured out the Merc top end, or not even top end, but getting going. The torque on that car just pulls you down the straightaway. And then the BMW, it feels like a little bit of a lag machine. And then all of a sudden, by the time you're at the end of the straightaway, you're blowing by people.
The power band in the BMW is ridiculous when it finally kicks in, and yeah, you're pulling cars down the straight. Like, obviously it lacks interior, they're both international horseshoes, it lacks in. Bus stop, it's not great in. But let's be honest, where are you making the majority of your passes in that race?
Turn one, I would think, right? Turn one or going into the bus stop.
Yeah, the end of the straightaways.
Yeah.
Where the BMW seems to excel speed-wise.
Yeah.
Overall, I believe the Mercedes is probably the best overall car. But when it comes back to, we know, obviously the 24 hours is a race of patience.
Yes.
So if you're a little bit slower in the infield, who really cares? Because you're going to make all your moves where it's simple on the oval part.
Well, and that's the one, like, you can't really I mean, it's more treacherous to pass in the infield. Let's just be honest. I mean, you can make a pass at both horseshoes if you get a run, but you could be, have a situation like I had yesterday in the endurance race where, I should have been smarter about it, and it's something that, I'm going to talk to you guys about of what I learned in the race. But we had a situation where going into turn one, there were a couple cars catching me. At this time in the VRS endurance, you have full fuel, so we had the full 27 gallons, I think it was, of fuel in the car, and we go to turn one. And a couple of guys had caught me, and the one guy let go past me into turn one. I kept it on the bottom, let him go around the outside because he would have the momentum going down to the horseshoe. Well, he goes wide like everybody else does in turn one. It allows me to just continue on. And if I check up, there's a guy behind me that's going to run me over. So I just kind of stay in the throttles, run my own pace, and then we come up on that little right-hander, the kink, if you will, right after turn one, and we come together and we wreck. And part of it's like, okay, maybe that was on me, because I shouldn't have squeezed to the line, but it's like, what am I supposed to do here? Put myself up against the wall? And so there's some like racing technique there I have to learn of how to handle that situation better. But
etiquette wise, he should have backed out. You gave him the opportunity for the spot. He took it, but then overdrove the corner because of how he was driving it. Then when he messed up and you had to run back, that's generally where the car behind would yield.
Because I have the spot now,
would
right?
yield.
I have the spot now. Right. Okay.
Essentially. It's your corner at that point.
Right. And even though I wasn't even battling the guy really at that point, I was going to let him go at wherever needed to. I was just going to let him go, let the other guy go, and get back into a rhythm. But my point to the whole thing is that infield section of the track is so treacherous. I mean, you got that second kink, which is the left-hander after the first horseshoe, that if you go side by side through there, you're not smart. Let's put it like you need to make smarter decisions. I shouldn't say you're not smart. You just need to make smarter decisions. And then you got the second horseshoe, which is another passing zone you can make a move at if you really wanted to dive it in there. And if you get a good enough run there, you make the dive at turn 6. But turn 6, my opinion, is actually the most treacherous corner on that whole track because I have never been able to find a time where I can go wide open from the time you throttle at the apex to the banking. I've never been in a car that does that.
It's all about exit angle. You can do it, but you have to have the exact right angle to do it.
It's bumpy. I mean, it's just treacherous. But Miles, what I got to ask as I say I'm going to call him a rookie, but yeah, he's probably already way better than I am in these cars. What have you learned? What's been the fun part on your end?
The fun part,
We know the non-fun part. Trust me.
I don't see nothing fun about this, man. I'm just competitive.
What?
I don't see no fun about this stuff, man. I tell y'all over and over, this is just competitiveness. But just the brakes, man. The sound of the cars, how real it feel, the turning of it, just being inside that cockpit, bro. It's just a whole different experience. Going left and right, downshifting, learning how your shifting points, like slower shifting, faster shifting. Like you was talking about in turn 6, you could do a late apex in there to get the run off, or sometimes I like to keep it low just because of the wheel spin. It all depends on low fuel, or it's just weird that being in a race car for so long and trying to save tires, being my agenda and being fast or just being consistent. And now you're in a car where you're running the speed, and the more you wear your tires, the faster it get. But then it hit that plateau of, okay, this is as good as gonna get. Now it starts, low fuel and all these factors. It's exciting, bro. It's exciting, especially 3 hours was exciting. Just imagine 24 hours.
Okay.
See, you say it's not fun until it's like 18 hours into this 24-hour event. We're all tired. We're all exhausted. We're all having the time of our lives.
True.
Like
I say that,
and you got a chance to win.
but you do remember I have been a part of all those times by just watched and just cheered y'all on. That's basically what I was, just more support.
I think there's nothing like being 5 a.m. You're 12 hours into this race. There's nobody within 3 laps forward or behind of you at this point. You're literally just out there turning laps, having a conversation about what the weather's doing outside, because you inevitably get bored.
Right.
You do.
Which, yeah, at this rate, the way all of a sudden this weather's starting to hit these areas we're in, it might be better off running that race and just sitting at home. But the one thing I think, and Miles, tell me if I'm wrong, and only because I've been in this book, it happened Sunday. I ran on a team of 3 people. It was me, Clark, and Dean. Those 2 went out there and ran flawless runs. Yeah, they got off tracks because, everybody has off tracks at the bus stop and stuff like that, or little pieces where you'll clip the grass or whatever. I go out there and 6 laps into my run, have that incident we spoke about happen, and I pretty much hurt the car. And I think that's where Miles, was where he's worried about the fun part or whatever, is the fact that you don't want to be the guy that destroys a car 20 hours or 10 hours or wherever into the race that, your team has put all the effort in to go out there and try to win this thing or just get a top 5 out of it or whatever and survive all 24 hours of this race. You don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, nobody wants to be that guy to basically, spoil everybody's fun or wreck everybody's whole. We've been practicing like crazy, man. We were practicing every single day. We put in, I don't know how many hours of practice in all these vehicles, and we got 1 or 2 days to make 24 hours, and you do not want to be that one person that hurts that. You don't want to be that one person that hurts your own team in any situation, But at the same time, you gotta understand mistakes gonna happen, and then you just try to rebound, and that's just gonna build y'all chemistry up. We all friends here. We all understand it. Even Telder Telder messed us up, and I wasn't mad at him a bit because that's Telder. I'm a ride or die for Telder, bro. Like right or wrong. So even when I messed up, he wasn't mad at me, and we still ended up having a good finish. But we still showed ourselves that hey, we could be in the top 3. Like we was third, 10 seconds ahead of fourth. Like we could run flawless races. We could do this. So I mean, you could say it was fun. I could say it was fun, but nah, man, I don't know.
It's
I don't know how
nerve-wracking.
to explain it. I don't like wrecking. I
Well,
don't like that.
I mean, Telder and I ran Le Mans last Friday or a week ago Friday, and he had a pretty flawless run, and I go park it in Indianapolis. So I mean, you're starting to get a trend out of me here with Rex, by the way.
Uh,
Yeah, we've run plenty of those VRS sprints. They've been there this week. As a matter of fact, they're flipping right now. Well, I say right now, we're recording this at 7 o'clock Eastern time, so it's right as the time that the tracks are flipping. So I think IMS is going to Watkins Glen. I think VRS goes to Hockenheim, which I'm kind of tempted, to be honest with you.
It's a fun track.
I have to buy the track. I haven't got it yet, so I'll have to go buy Hockenheim. And
it's a fairly easy track to learn too. Like you can learn it pretty quickly.
It's a road course, Matt.
The normal person can learn it pretty quickly.
There you go.
But real quick before we move on from the 24, the big thing about the 24, wrecks are going to happen.
Absolutely.
We have all wrecked a car during the 24.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter if it's 2 hours in or 22 hours in. We have all wrecked a car in the 24.
except me.
That's true.
You will wreck a car in 24. But the biggest thing is, like, normally, yeah, we're all competitive guys. We're all here to win the race. The biggest problem, the biggest detriment to a team in the 24-hour, any 24-hour event, not even just this one, is somebody will wreck the car and then just get Debbie Downer about it. Like, oh, I'm the one that fucked it up.
That's me.
Yeah, see, that's the biggest mood killer of the entire thing. Most of us, we do not care whether we finish second or 32nd. We're there for the clout of what the 24-hour race stands for at the end of the day. Like, the biggest thing is if you do happen to wreck the car, you have to just literally forget it even happened. Like, you can be mad about it for a minute or two. That's fine. We're all going to be. We're competitive. But at the end of the day, you need to just let it go. It never happened. You're starting fresh. Next lap's a new lap. Go out and set a personal best the next lap.
Well, it's kind of hard to do it. A car that's destroyed. Just put it out there. But no, it's a fair point. I mean, and I'm guilty of that. Trust me, I'm the first one that's like, okay. And that's also my, personality is I've been that person that tries to be a perfectionist. And I think that's one of my biggest downers is that. And it's that competitive spirit, like you said. We'll use yesterday's race and even last Friday's race for an example. Yeah, I was mad at myself, but I sat there and I said, all right, now it comes down to how are you going to not fix this, because you're not going to fix the problem, but you can always make it worse by wrecking again or whatever.
Yeah, so that's why you need to drop that mood.
Right. Mindset
immediately.
Right. And I went back out yesterday, had a flawless run to the finish, still got a top 10 in the VRS endurance, and in Le Mans, obviously we had destroyed the car and it was at the end of the race, so there was no getting back out there to finish. But
but what I say, me and you ran that Le Mans race.
Right.
I ran what I did. I did what I did, clean, perfectly clean run. Yeah, you ultimately sent the car to outer space.
I did that after the race because I was mad at that corner.
But the other day, you hit the wall. Like, did I even seem the slightest bit irritated with that? Not at all. Because I don't care at that point. Like, it is what it is.
And it affects me, not you.
And that's why I tried to just explain to you. I went back and watched it to try and explain what I think, because you were like, I don't know what happened or whatever, and you were all mad about it. And it's like, that's why I tried to explain to you what happened. And that's what most people don't understand too, is how finicky all of these cars can be.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You went off in a corner that you had not even come close to running off in 50 laps, and you missed your braking point by 50 feet and your RPM by 200.
And that was good information. Like, I sat there, I was mad at myself, but I took that information in. It was like, that's good to know. And if you go back, obviously we can't watch it now because I don't have the race anymore. I actually back up my braking point just a little bit, just to make sure I don't have that again. Only so, and one, because we were out of the race at that moment when it came to getting a good or a decent finish. I mean, we did okay, but I did what I had to do to make sure we got back with a clean race car after that. So
I think we still finished 13th out of 40.
Yeah. So we did our part. It's just sometimes those little things. And it was a great thing to hear from you that you said that what I did, and it processed in my head, and I went out there and fixed it. Fixed the air and made sure it didn't happen again. Because I'm one of those guys. I brake on the straight more than I do a corner. I've never been
Well,
good
that's
at
how
that.
you're supposed to. That's how you're
Right.
supposed to be.
Right.
Most of those cars don't like trail braking through a corner.
And that corner, that section, I call it Indianapolis. I know one of the corners there. I'm not good at naming road courses as Telder. But the right-hander there is always tricky because in a GT3 car, you're starting your brake at the 100 mark. At least I did. And then you're almost back off the brake to roll the corner and then back on the brake to hit the left-hander, that 90-degree left-hander. So what I was doing was I was doing exactly what I'd said there, and that's when that one mistake happened. So instead, I kind of went between the two and the one, started to back off and brake, let off going into the corner, and then I was slower going in, but it made the corner every time. So it's stuff like that you learn, and we'll have some more learning this weekend. You got the Michelin Pilot Series was last week. Someone was tried to run that, and I tried to run a GT4, and Telder said to me multiple times, it's going to drive different. Boy, did it. But it was fun to do. I didn't finish well at all. The Roars this weekend, I'm still debating on what car to drive. I'm leaning towards an LMP3, but the problem is they were at Daytona this past week, so now I'm going to have to find a way to go run the car at Daytona somewhere else to get some laps. So maybe I'll try that at the Roar. But, I mean, you said you were going to run it, right, Tyler?
You know that's a right-hand drive car, right?
I'll figure it out. I'll do what you did. I'll just slide my driver's seat to the left.
I didn't. I'm still running right-hand drive.
You said you were going to move the seat over.
I thought about it, but I didn't.
Oh, well, there.
It's crazy running like a track that you've run so many laps at in the past that you know like what to look for, and everything is completely different when you're on the other side of the car. I saw the inside grass on. I saw two snails doing it on the inside of a bus stop.
Jesus!
You can't see that on left-hand drive cars.
No, usually they get ran over. Did it make a difference to you? Outside
it
of
did.
You?
It did.
Miles,
I learned you learn more of where the limit is on the corners that usually you're turning right on. You find that limit a little bit better.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't the old prototypes about 5 years ago right-hand drivers?
I believe so. Yeah.
Well, I thought.
I think the original like LMP2 cars were.
Right. Okay. Miles, we gonna try the Roar this weekend?
I don't know, man. I got some bad weather coming in here in Georgia.
It's supposed to be like single digits up here where we are.
Oh yeah, I know it's cold.
I'm supposed to get an ice storm tonight. Actually,
oh, we're getting 2 to 4 inches between the time I go to bed and the time I go unload an airplane at the airport tomorrow morning. So I'm gonna try to figure that one out. But
Skala, keep your pants up.
Anyways, I don't know where to go with that. Let's move on to league racing here. Telder, I had no clue you did this until Julian's one of those, and he does a great job, by the way, with this. I mean, I think he's like 19 years old now, 18, 19 years old, and he's run this league for 3 to 4, maybe 5 years now. A league called Velocity Online Racing, VR. It's I would say an IndyCar league, but obviously with all the policies and stuff, he just started a Super Formula version of the league and stuff. But I look up and I see Telder running the Michigan 500K on Twitter in VOR, and I'm like, wait a minute, Telder tried VOR, and I saw some results that seemed familiar, but might not have been of your doing. What in the world did you do?
Well, I led 22 of the first 42 laps.
That's good.
Then I sped on pit road.
You have a limiter.
It didn't get down to the limiter.
So you did the same thing that you did in Lionheart, except Lionheart don't have a limiter.
Exactly. No, the problem was I went to go, and when the car hit the embankment coming off the turn 4 at Michigan, it got real sideways, so I had to pedal it.
Yeah. That'll happen.
Ultimately, and then like when I got back on the brakes, it ultimately ended up spinning on me, and I backed it into the pit wall, which caused like 7 minutes of damage. So
I was wondering how you lost 11 laps with a speeding penalty.
I was 16 laps down. I got 5 of them back.
That's impressive.
I got 5 of the 16 back.
That's because I think Julie does lucky dogs. Am I wrong?
Yeah, but I got 2 of them back to Bill Elliott way. Then I got yelled at because I wasn't supposed to race lap cars, which I missed in the rule book.
Well, there's a
Nope, it's in the rule book. If your laps down, you have to concede
It's a
to.
topic for another day. I understand it's in the rule
Yeah.
book, but that's a topic for another day.
Oh yeah,
Much like
me and him had a
restarts, much.
discussion back and forth about
Oh,
it. So
absolutely. But it is in the rule book. I do remember Julian does push that, but it's like you got to still have a shot. That's my opinion.
and that's what we and him had talked about.
Yeah.
But yeah, topic for a different day.
Yes. Let's go into we had two league races this week. Stephen Miles raced in them both, and this is just proof that Stephen Miles races in a lot of leagues that I broadcast. And let's talk about last night's race real quick. We'll save the best for last for Miles. But Miles, you ran your first ever Sim 500 race last night, which was the NC811.org Xfinity Series at Daytona. And I think you got a rough initiation last night.
I mean, nah, it was. I mean, yeah, it was rough, but a normal Daytona 500, I guess you could say.
That's a month from now with that series on the Cup side. But yeah, I mean, it was a 80 lap race, and you started in the back. You actually decided not to qualify, which Tommy Ryan ended up winning his 5th straight Daytona pole. He and Tyler Dalton on super speedways. It's like if they're in the race, don't even touch them. Just
Yeah, they're impressive.
Just go do your best. And they seem to know something there. But obviously, there were 7 cautions in the race, multiple lead changes, multiple 3-wide racing. But the one thing, and you brought this up earlier, is that track temp was sitting at 130 degrees. And it caused the back end to, as Clint Boyer would say, get light on its feet going into the corners in the draft. And it seemed to cause some issues.
Yeah, it was a handful. But I mean, I liked it though. I'm not gonna lie to you. I really didn't even notice it was 130 some degrees.
Oh, I remember I looked at one point, I think middle of the race, I threw it up on the screen and it was 130 as the track temp. I was like, man, that's hot. Obviously, there were multiple big wrecks, and then you did a good job of missing most of them. Of course, you had one unfortunate deal where a car that had been wrecked forgot to turn his turn signal on, and you ran in the back of him going to pit road. That was interesting in itself. But then, unfortunately, the big wreck happens at the end, and we all knew it was coming. And if you go watch the broadcast,
That was a wreck. I was watching the broadcast. That was a wreck.
I said, white flag, all gloves are off now, pretty much, because in iRacing, there's no yellow that stops the race on the white flag lap. It's first one to the checkered flag wins. Mike Kelly ended up being the first one there by like 3 seconds over second place because, well, second place on back wrecked pretty much coming to the line, including Stephen Miles, who got hit about 5 times in the wreck. I mean, there was sheet metal flying everywhere in that wreck. I mean, it looked like a junkyard when it was over with.
Yeah, man. I just wish I would have made the right move at the time. I put myself in a bad situation. I blame that Giants car, bro, with the New York Giants on there.
A little jealous there. Now, in fairness, Miles is a Philly fan, and of course, New York kind of beat him up yesterday. And not only that, they dislocated Jalen's finger. It looked like mine in 9th grade after basketball. So they did that to him. And who was the backup for Philly? Is it the kid from Indiana, the quarterback?
Mariota.
Oh, it's Mary. Oh, I forgot about Marcus. Never mind. I thought it was okay. Yeah, Marcus definitely didn't play at IU. So Mariota comes in the game and it was ugly. So needless to say, Miles got focused on racing, and here he is on the final lap, and he's pushing the New York Giants car.
And I gave him a little more of a push than I wanted to, and pushed him below the yellow, and I moved up to let him get his spot back, and that's when I knew I messed up.
At that point, I learned, and of course,
Because
from there,
I watched all your broadcasts and I research and I study them, and I knew the trend of this race and how they do on the last lap and the last turn. Well, hopefully y'all can hear me. My signal's going down. It's a big storm over me right now. Y'all can hear me?
yeah, we got you.
Yeah, you're
We
good.
got you.
All right, but yeah, I just knew they usually wreck and it used to be second on back, and it just be a leader going to the finish line. And I knew if I wanted to be safe, I had to stay on the bottom, which by that time I was in the middle and I couldn't let off of it. So I was like praying that they just keep it straight and we just finish. All I want to do is just finish, man. And when they wrecked, I knew it was gonna be bad, but then once I just kept wrecking, I just took my hand off the steering wheel and just enjoyed the ride, I guess.
Yeah, that's all you could do at that moment. You're just in for it. But yeah, that was a big wreck in the end. But Mike Kelly wins that race, at Daytona, his second straight season of winning the opener. Of course, they're at Homestead next week, so you'll be on the old surface there, High, Wide, and Handsome, or wherever. I'm curious to see that one because that's going to be 130-degree track temps again, and you're going to have it's the first race of the refresh. So I'm kind of curious to see how this track acts. Will it be a bottom feeder? Will it be a top? Who knows? Maybe it'll be the middle or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's gonna. I like they have this early because it's just gonna help me for Wednesday's championship round. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
That is called a segue right there as we transfer over to GLSR. And of course, Wednesday. By the way, Telder's not allowed to talk about GLSR for reasons that we won't get into. So, Miles, it's you and I again.
Free Telder.
That's between you guys. I stay out of that. But so, all right, you went out and win this race at Texas, and it was the first session you go out there and run laps, and you've been running this road car. And I remember in the interview, you're like, dude, it took me 60 laps to get just used to driving an old full car again. How tough was it out there? How slick was it? Like, how much fun was it in that B car? Like, talk about, man, because you went to victory lane in the race and definitely had its drama in that race.
I don't know what it is. The mile and a half, bro. I just love them. It's just Texas. It didn't feel like Texas no more. I don't know if that was from the refresh or what it was, but I just got in the car before practice to see what my speed was, and it felt good. It was a slick track, and then we get into the league race, and they got it overcast. It's cool. It's a whole second faster, so I knew it was gonna be closer racing. But then I just couldn't hit my marks in 1 and 2. That was my toughest corner right there. Was 1 and 2, but. When you interviewed me, man, I was clueless. I was trying to depend on Alvin and AB, listen to them, watch other people's laps, and I seen Diego up there fast time, so I knew I had to get to work. I pick up some tenths or whatever throughout practice. I was like 8th or 7th. Qualifying came up. I just normally what I do is just go slow. I make myself go slow and I qualify second. And I was just like, wow. So at the beginning of the race, you know what I do? I be patient. Like I don't even race. Like I beginning of the race and the middle of the race is not important. Well, it's important to me to make a perfect race, but it's the finish more than all. So it was slick. Diego was fast. It was a bunch of fast people in that race, man. Alvin was fast. And we got separation there with that pit stop. I heard on your broadcast they was talking about like Peyton was like it's not enough laps, like 25 or 20 some laps on a set of tires is not enough to pit. And I'm like, well, what races have you been running, man?
Right.
Because it's just like at Michigan, the race that I felt like I was supposed to win, but I lost. They got that late race caution,
Mm-hmm.
and it helped them. And that's something that I didn't need. And then this time it was like it came back around full turn. And when the caution did come out, I mean, everybody had fresh tires, only 6, 7 laps, and I had a fight off Pluff, which was making the outside work. And Diego came out of nowhere, so it was at the end. Nail biter, man. So
That was the part that caught me was the fact that the Highline did start working eventually
like
in that
I
race.
said, I said the high line wasn't gonna be the way to pass. Like yeah, you can use the high line, the short run, but the longer the run went, I mean, I seen people go up there, but I wasn't going up there. I
Well,
knew.
you've got your
Go ahead.
strategy. You got your strategy. We'll just call it like that in fairness. Now, you did kind of, I don't know if you caught it, you did kind of admit your strategy a couple minutes ago. But I'm not going to go there
Yeah,
and
I
reference
mean
it. So,
everybody, and like I've been noticing people in the interviews starting to say the same type of strategy, but it's like mastering it. It's
well,
like
yeah.
really like doing it and failing at it so many times to the point where you know how it works, and it
Right.
has. I mean, you have to have the complete race. You have to have the perfect pit stops. You have to manage the lead perfectly, and the cautions have to fall right just for you.
Yeah, we had two cautions in the first 25 laps. You had a wreck where Alfin got loose, and then Peachin and Strayer came together early, and then you had a stopped car. And then you guys went 100 laps. And then 10 laps to go, had the third caution where Cedric Ingram got loose and then tried to make an emergency pit stop at that moment. And it just, unfortunately, Devin had nowhere to go and became an Ingram sandwich. So the tough break there. But then Alfin was out of tires because he tried to short pit.
Yeah, Fatback McSwain lied to him
I've
like I
been telling
told
him,
him.
man, don't do it.
He told me, he was like, I'm finna pit this lap, and I'm telling them, like, I don't think it's right. And he was like, we're not gonna be able to make it. I'm like, I'm telling you, bro, I swear it's like 57 laps. He was like, nah, and I'm like, I'm not pitting until somebody else pit. And when he pitted, nobody else
Right.
went, and basically we all pitted at the same time, stretching it, which was going to be an exciting race at the end because we didn't know who was going to be able to make it. I was backing up my time so much to save, and I was still half a lap short. So I just wanted to see how that was gonna play out the last 13. But when that wreck happened in front of me, I mean, I felt like Michigan, like everybody's fast on fresh tires. It's just once you burn them off, then we can see who really race. But I mean, it was fun.
That's all that matters. You went to victory lane too, and you're in the final four now. So congratulations to Miles on that win. But yeah, it was a wild one. It was over with the restart with like 9 to go. You passed Alphin and went to victory lane. Signs seemed to be coming, and then him and Pluff got into a battle, and that's where you were able to pull away and get win number 3. So that was pretty much all the racing when it comes to league racing. This week we got TI back at it tomorrow night at Auto Club, and then they got a Super Speedway Truck Series at Daytona on Thursday, and then we got Dover for GLSR, and then Homestead Sunday. All those on the Captain Esports Network. So I get to go to work and have some fun now. So not that I'm not having fun already, but this upgrade and stuff like that, this is looking forward to everything here. So should be a lot of fun. So all right, so we're gonna run through this part real quickly, and so we can get to the interview with Chris Lewis. But a segment. This has kind of come as a joke of the treehouse, so to say, where we like to say fact or facts. I spelled it fax in the sheet, like a fax machine, or cap. Of course, cap apparently is the term now that's like, yeah, right. Yeah, that's not happening. Type of sarcasm, cap. So I'm going to run through these real quickly because there's only like 3 or 4 to talk about here. But Telder, this one's for you because this one involves Miles. Stephen Miles gets a Sim 500 win this season.
I would say yeah.
Yeah.
That's facts. That's facts. Facts. Miles gets a win in Sim 500.
Yeah.
You don't think so, Miles? You don't think you beat Pedro?
What I do when I go to new leagues is I earn the respect of the drivers. I don't go full out or whatever like that. Every league I've been in, the first league, All American is the only league where I haven't won in 2 seasons. But every league I usually towards the end start getting kind of okay. I see them, and then the next league I win my first race. But hopefully I'm wrong and I do get one. But I'm not going. I'm gonna humble myself because these are some fast guys, man.
In fairness to Miles, this is the longest season time-wise you're going to run. Because usually you got races split in half or seasons split in half or 10 races or whatever. You got a 28 racer here.
I could do that.
There you go. So, all right, let's switch it up now. It's Telder's turn here, Miles. Fact or cap, Telder wins a TI race.
Oh, that's facts. That's facts all the way. I wish he would be on my team. I could really make sure that happened. But since he gonna be on the other side, it's gonna be kind of rough. But I can see him getting a win.
Now, here's the thing: Bristol's not on the schedule for him, so that leaves what, a super speedway?
Iowa.
He's still fast on mile and a halves and everything else. It's all about wreck avoidance for everybody else.
That's no joke there.
It's just getting through the pack and avoiding those those the Dallas fans or whatever, and that's Alfin and anybody else.
No,
So,
I know who you were referencing in there.
Yeah. But if he avoid them and he know how to manage the race, 'cause I'm pretty sure we're gonna do that same fuel and them pit stops, whatever. I can see him being up there, but I'm gonna be right there with him if anything.
Nice. All right, last one here. I'm going to skip the IndyCar one because we pretty much already answered that question. For both of you guys, let's go into the Cup Series again real quickly here. Carson Hocevar driving a Spire 77 car. Of course, John Hunter Nemechek, Legacy Motor Club, driving for Toyota now in the 42. Noah Gregson over at Stuart Haas in the 10 in the Ford. Carson Hocevar outruns both of them this season.
Cap.
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 Do you think it's more of a not enough equipment type thing? Because, I mean, we saw what Carson could do. I mean, he took that 42 car to the front in a couple of those races late last year.
I think he outruns John Hunter, but he does not outrun Gregson.
Okay.
I don't know, man. I think he's the type of racer he is. He's gonna have
He's
more
gonna
bad luck.
he's gonna outwreck both of them.
Yeah. He's gonna have more bad luck than good luck this season. I don't see him outrunning either one of them. But back when he was in the trucks, man, I said I needed to get a new driver. And I seen him, and I like how he raced. He was aggressive. I said, that's my new driver. But after racing him in iRacing and seeing or whatever, I'm starting to not want to. But nah, he's not.
He's a dick in
iRacing.
Aren't they
He
all?
also stays by Telder down the street too. That's another person.
That's true.
That's
true.
close by Telder. Telder stay by all races, man.
It's a Michigan thing. I'm telling you. Anyways.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm sure he's gonna hate me for that line. I find that interesting. I think Carson's got a chance, definitely in that car, but it's just a matter of how good's that equipment. I mean, he drove that 7 car at Gateway and almost gave it a better run than Corey did at times.
It's his experience, man,
right.
and his and just how he's racing with other drivers. Once he do something bad, they all gonna race him. Yeah.
No, I agree.
That's the problem is he's already rubbed a few people the wrong way.
Yeah.
Like he did at Martinsville last year. Yeah. Like he got into it with what, Brad?
It
was Brad or Logano. Was it Brad or Logano? It was one of those.
One of them. One of those guys.
I have to go back. I mean, does the kid have talent? Absolutely.
Wow.
And now with Spire and their whole lease car with Trackhouse, Trackhouse is helping them out now.
Yeah.
Which they already get help from. I think they used to get help, at least as far as I know. I think
they get a little help from Hendrick.
Well, I think they were getting Childers help last year because of Ty. So I don't know how that's all worked out now because, obviously Ty Dillon was in the 77 last year. So I think they were getting some stuff from Childers. I'm not fully.
But no, I think they're going to get more from Trackhouse this year. And obviously we showed, look at what Gisbergen did in a Trackhouse car.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think both Spire cars are going to be a little bit higher than you're used to seeing them. But I still don't, which Legacy, they still got to figure their shit out, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. They're going to have to make a believer out of me before I'll, say any one of their drivers is going to outrun anybody. But I don't see them outrunning the Stewart-Haas cars. I think Stewart-Haas, they showed a lot of potential at the end of the season. We know what Gregson's ability is in a car. But I think he outruns Nemechek. I do not think he outruns Gregson.
Should be interesting to see. We'll have to find out what happens in February when the season kicks off. Matter of fact, a month away from the Clash already. So we'll have to see. But anyhow, so want to move on to the Captain's Corner, as I'm calling it. I got a corner, believe it or not. Where
can we do an over under real quick?
Oh geez, what we got
with the Clash?
Yes,
over under 5 cars. Host of our wrecks in the Clash.
Ooh,
under. Because he's gonna wreck like 1 or 2, and his car's gonna be destroyed. He's gonna be out of the race.
Now, if you want to play that game, over under. At least one Keselowski car makes the race.
Under.
So you're saying for a third, that right there means for a third straight year, neither car makes the race.
I think so.
That's interesting. I was wondering because last 2 years they have not made a single Clash race. Neither the RFK cars.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, the one of them would have made it last year if Daniel Suarez didn't decide to send it from Guatemala to Canada in one corner.
In fairness, they were all doing that by the end of the race. I mean, I'm scared to see what this demo. I'm hoping that the back end of these cars are really as good as they are now because I'm scared for somebody just taking a shot that's going to hurt them and cause them to miss like Daytona or something because of like a concussion or whatever. Because they are just literally driving it in there.
I mean, with the new rear crash impact zones, I think it's a little bit more forgiving, a lot more forgiving,
right,
on it. But
I mean, you always got
to worry about that.
We saw some of the shots the last couple of years, and I mean, that's just a simple shot to the rear. We're watching her head whip back, and it's like, yeesh, that looks bad. But interesting.
It's just crazy. You watch Kurt Busch's wreck. Obviously the one that put him out of the car. Mm-hmm. Then you watch one like Ryan Preece's at Daytona. And the fact that Priest just was good, walked away. Obviously had all the eye bruising and everything, but you look at those two wrecks side by side, and which one of those guys is not going to walk away from that?
Yeah, you would think
at
it's
that
Ryan
point.
Preece easily, right? Because that was one of the worst wrecks we've seen in. I mean, take away the. I mean, the Newman wreck was big, but when it comes to rollovers like that, that was
Well,
bad.
even look at well, yeah, you also have the preset when he T-boned Larson
Oh yeah,
in the middle of the banking
Yeah.
too. That one too. I was referring to that one. I forgot about his rollover one in the night race.
Yeah. That's a good call too. Not to mention, I was going to mention this. We got the Daytona, but this is something I've written down. I did read this on Twitter before. I forget who it was that wrote this out. All 3 blowovers so far in the next gen are all Fords. I don't know if that's something up or what the deal is.
Yeah, because it was Busher. Busher did it too, didn't he?
Yeah, Busher blew over it. Well, hit the Charlotte deal. The car dug in.
Yeah.
Preece, Harrison Burton.
Yeah, all 3 rollover. Yeah.
So some people know Chris Lewis. Some people don't. I have had the pleasure of knowing him for about 3 years or so, and I actually got to know him as the guy who ran iRacing. But little do people know, if it wasn't for Chris Lewis, there would be no Captain Esports Network. See, back when I first got back on iRacing in 2020 after a little bit of a break, I had an older computer. My dad had an older computer after he passed away in 2017. I brought it with me. He was on iRacing, and so I tried to figure out which computer would work better for streaming. Turns out they both really weren't working that well. So Jim Eric and Chris Lewis bring me into a chat one night after a race and said, hey, we want to get you a computer. Long story short, 3 years later, here I am with this computer still, and the Captain Esports Network is where it is. And I figured, in my way of returning the favor to him, our first podcast, let's get Chris Lewis in here to talk to him about how he got into racing, how he got into iRacing, and how actually another hobby of his connects with racing. So with that said, Captain's Corner with Chris Lewis. Let's check it out. So Chris Lewis joins me, and of course, Chris, I'm sitting here reminiscing a little bit because it's been 3 years since you and I have teamed up, and this powerful machine over here to my right still working pretty hard. And I know it's something that we don't brag about too much, but let's just be 100% here when I say this. Without you and Jim and your idea, I don't know where I'd be right now.
It has a lot to do with Jim.
That might be fair, but still, you deserve the credit and partial credit of it too, along with Jim, which one day we'll get Jim on here, and he does plenty of great things, of course, in the racing community, especially on iRacing. But Lewis, I wanted to bring you on because a lot of people don't know you. You know, some do, obviously, who have been around you with TI Racing in the league and that kind of thing. And it's one of those where people like you or people don't. And I know it's kind of what they say in life, I guess, in general, but it's literally one or the other. It's like, yeah, I'm not sure. No, you don't get that. It's either, hey, Chris is a good guy, or I don't like Chris. He does too many things, or whatever. So I don't think people get to see too much behind the scenes, like myself or Stephen Miles or any of the TI guys, but just the person you are. And I think this is just part of what you do. But talk about that a little bit, because you not only have done that, but you've put yourself out there and you like support people. You're a people person, so to say, and you run this team, you run a league, and it's something you don't have to do. I mean, you bust your tail working a full-time job of like 40 plus hours, maybe I should say 60 plus hours every week, and yet you come back and run a league.
Yeah, the 60 hours have been killing me for sure. The league I love. The guys that are in the league I love. You either love me or you hate me, and I love that, because even if you hate me, I still love you.
True. Where does that come from? Like, when it comes to growing up, is that something that is like your dad's side of things, your mom's side of things? Is it a mixture, or is it just something we don't know? Or
growing up, I always wanted to be liked and loved, and I realized, after years of trying, you can't please everybody. So you either like me or you don't, and I really don't care which one it is. I can't please everybody. So what's it going to be?
So true, so true. So I wanna go back, obviously, because there's a lot of things about you I don't know, which probably might be a good thing, but we're gonna find out. I want to go back to your younger days, and one, I don't even know like where you're from. I mean, I know you live like in the Asheville, North Carolina area there of Marion, and that kind of thing. But talk about like where you were born and like growing up in the Lewis household.
I was born in Marion. I've been
Okay.
in Marion my entire life. I love it. It's my little small town. Um, Growing up, I had my mom and my dad. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She raised me while my dad worked a 60-hour-a-week job. Um, when I was 11, my mom left my dad.
Mm.
So that changed my whole world, put everything upside down. Um, had to learn how to be a divorced kid growing up, which is different. And if your parents have ever left, you know what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you have one trying to outdo the other, and
Mm-hmm.
you just want your family back. But grew up in Marion, loved Marion. Probably will never leave Marion.
Nothing wrong with that. I can speak right there with you. I was the same age when my parents got divorced, and know how that whole deal works, and it's a tough deal that to go through, but obviously you've worked your way through it with help, I'm sure, and that kind of thing. And being a small town guy, that's something I obviously haven't done. I've lived in like 5 cities now, and going off of that, I just can't help but think like where the racing part comes in, because you're young enough where you might have been, that's the right way, maybe still a little kid, a little boy when Asheville was still racing, because I know obviously there was the old Asheville racetrack that was up at the top of the hill, I believe, and then there was the new Asheville that was featured on Lost Speedways with Dale Jr. That is now pretty much a walking park, if you will, there in Asheville. So, is that basically where your racing started? Like for you to become a racing fan? Where did that all come into play?
That it actually had nothing to do with the racing
Of course
side, but
not.
the Asheville Speedway is going to come into play here later on in this little conversation.
Right.
And it's been a big part of my life. Um, Racing started for me. My dad watched it growing up. I was a big Jeff Gordon fan because I was 2, 3 years old, and the car was pretty.
Of course.
And I hated Dale Earnhardt because my dad liked him, and because he had a black car, and black was bad. Black's an evil color, or at least my Catholic mother raised me like that.
Right.
So racing, I would watch it with my dad, and it was oh cool, that's a car, and then I go do something else. Oh cool, there's another car, and then I go do something else. That changed when Dale died. That sparked my interest more into racing. I remember that day. I remember my dad crying, and I remember I didn't have a Dale car, but I had a helicopter, a little toy helicopter, because I was 5, and it had a number 3 on it, and I brought that to my dad and said, "Sorry, your favorite driver died." Um, but ever since then, I watched every single race.
So,
Huge Jeff Gordon fan. When Jeff left, it was Brad. Now it's Kyle.
which Kyle? There's like 3.
There's Kyle Busch.
Kyle Busch. Okay. So I was gonna say, wait a minute. And it's funny because when I met you, I think it was more the Brad side, and then when Brad left Penske, that's when you, I think, jumped over to Kyle. If I get that kind of right there. So,
Yep.
yeah. So okay. So obviously that's 2001 when that all takes place, and obviously you're still young at that point, and you obviously something had to get you going into actual racing, like out, like I mean, in the car type of things. Because as we're gonna discuss here, we're gonna segue to that here eventually. Is the go karts and things like that. Was there something there locally that was like, okay, I need to get into that after the whole 2001 situation?
There was nothing. There was just me playing with my little toy cars on the kitchen room floor, dreaming, dreaming of wanting to be in NASCAR, and always telling everybody I was going to be in NASCAR one day, and begging my dad to buy me a Legends car to go race at Charlotte, which he never did. But there's reasons behind that, and being in racing now, I understand why he didn't. But how I got into the go-karts is I always wanted to race. I had nothing other than NASCAR on the PlayStation 2. So when I finally had the chance to do it myself, I went for it.
What was that? What was that chance? Where was that opportunity?
At the go-kart track in Mooresville, the track house.
Formerly GoPro. So did you actually get a chance to actually get in the car and race?
Yeah, I've raced a bunch of times at GoPro and raced a couple different times around GoPro, and I've done a couple of different things, a couple of different stock appearances at Hickory, just kind of, seeing what I can do. Never did anything.
So, and eventually it's going to kind of zigzag here in a second because I'm trying to figure out like how to get over to Asheville again, because it's like you said Asheville's going to come in here somewhere.
Asheville's going to come in. It'll be a surprise.
Oh, okay. So you're going to get to it. Okay, we'll let that. We'll let it go. I just want to make sure I don't miss that part. But no, so okay. So this is obviously you're still teenage years and that kind of thing, racing there at what is now Trackhouse, which is the go kart place in Mooresville. As you mentioned, you're into go kart at that time, and you mentioned the PS2. I think I have to ask for obvious reasons. What was your favorite console racing game?
It was PlayStation 2, and it was NASCAR Thunder 2003 career mode.
That was that Tony Stewart or Dale Jr. on the cover?
Dale Jr.
Dale Jr. Yes, I do remember that.
Dale Jr.
Yes, and for those who haven't learned by now, I've shared it 100 times. It's Dirt to Daytona for me. If you ever played it, it was pretty awesome because you got.
I did play it.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. Loved it. As a matter of fact, I think I saw somebody on YouTube recently who's doing like a full career season in the Cup Series, running full distance races. I'm like, how are you pulling that off? Side story. But anyways, I digress. Okay, so you get to the go-karts. You're there at Trackhouse. What happens next?
We start. It's me and one of my best friends of all time, Bill. He's my head mechanic. We're just kind of wandering around, figuring out stuff as we go, because neither one of us have ever tuned on a go-kart, raced a go-kart, done anything. And I'll never forget it. I'm walking by one of the garages, and I turn to look, and there's Jamie McMurray, or somebody that looks like Jamie McMurray. So I don't have my glasses on. I can't really see. I kind of blow it off. And Bill takes a look, and he goes, "Yeah, that's Jamie McMurray." So we start talking, to some people at the track, and they keep saying that his dad, kind of helps out some people and gives them some parts, and you can buy parts from his dad. And so we start learning that, and I make my way over, and we get a couple parts.
Which is funny because as I think about this now, Jamie McMurray, I do remember would run down in Daytona. As a matter of fact, I think it goes on right around this time period now, if not just recently. They go down and they do karting on the speedway. I think the road course or somewhere they run the karting races. I know McMurray, I believe, has won it a few times or whatever down there. So as you bring that up, I'm like, oh yeah, Jamie McMurray was a karting guy. Which is cool because I believe his son, I forget his name, is it Connor? Carter, thank you. I know it started with a C. I believe he's doing the same kind of racing now, which is really cool. So So from there you get parts from Jamie McMurray. That's got to be interesting, right?
It is. It's kind of cool. It's always neat to see him at the track. And if you ever see him at the track, he's preparing Carter's cart, and he's always got a smile on his face, and he'll go and get him a snow cone, and he's just a cool guy.
I've heard he's such a down to earth guy, which is cool because the last Daytona 500 I was at before I moved to Indiana in 2010 was, well, I'll let you guess, the 2010 Daytona 500 won by Jamie McMurray. So there's a cool little circle to that. So obviously from there, you're getting used to doing the karting and that kind of thing. Does it take off from there? Do you get yourself into a little career, or is this more what leads into TI racing?
This is what leads into TI racing, and the whole. If you've ever done racing before, you know what I'm going to say. I'm in a compact SUV with a lawnmower trailer carrying my go-kart behind me to and from the track, with one guy as my head mechanic, pick crew, whatever.
Bill.
We pull up to the track, we unload, and right beside us is a $2.5 million RV from Ontario, Canada, and they've got 20 people for this one go-kart.
Ontario, Canada.
You can't beat that.
No, you can't.
You can, but I can't.
You got me thinking of who this could be.
No, that's all over the place there.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking like it's like a driver or something, like a Ron Fellows or something.
No, it's a 10-year-old kid and it's mom and dad, and there's like all these expensive RVs, packed all through there, and really nice $110,000 trucks. And here I am in my little compact SUV with my little lawnmower trailer.
See, you're literally the Jordan Anderson of go-karts at track house, which is funny. So, like, do you get the race as kid and you beat him? What?
No, the kid laps me like 2 laps my first ever race. And from that point, I knew unless, I get lucky, I'm not going to win these races. There's nothing I can do to get better. And it costs millions of dollars to be able to have the equipment to go as fast as that kid. So this is just going to become a for fun thing, and we're just going to have fun, and we're going to use these days as a relaxing day to go see how fast we can go. Which turns into finding iRacing. Where it does not take money.
Well,
it does. It does, but it's not millions. And when I started to do iRacing, I fell in love with it.
And what year was this around?
2018.
Okay.
2018.
So 2018, you get into iRacing, and so where do you get into a Legends car at that point? I'm guessing because you dreamed of getting into a Legends car. I mean, do you get in? I guess the spec racer is the closest thing to a kart on iRacing.
I went straight to a cup car with Landon Deerhold.
Hello, Landon. Went straight to a cup car. All right.
Went straight to a cup car.
That escalated quickly. Which 2018, which means that would be the what was it? The COT at that point?
I don't remember what it was. It wasn't what it is now.
No, obviously, yeah. I think it was COT or maybe the the Gen 5 car.
Gen 6.
Gen 6, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there it's coming out. I don't remember, because that was right around the time I was taking a break, actually, because I was just getting things going life-wise on my end. But, so obviously you get into the Cup Series there, and of course, or I say you get into the Cup Series like you're actually racing. You get into the iRacing Cup racing, and I guess obviously you get going there, and I know you and Landon and still recent times we've all raced together because of course I come into play then in 2020 and that kind of thing. But before I even got here, there was TI Racing, and you had an IndyCar series that I believe we were just going or just getting started, or maybe you had recently started, and then you also had a little truck series on the side.
We did. We had the IndyCar series that was broadcasted, and if Landon's watching this, he's gonna love this. By Fiki Fast.
I don't even want to ask. so,
Uh,
so I'm gonna back up here for a quick second. Where did TI Racing come from? What's this name? I think I've asked this before, but it slipped my memory. And
you
for those
have
who don't know,
I'm not a selfish guy, so I'm not gonna name it. Chris
Right.
Lewis Racing. That's the worst name, and I didn't want to do that. I'm not good at names. Landon didn't care, so I had a cat. My cat's name was Tiger. Tiger died in 2014, 13, something. That was my favorite cat. Like, I love that cat. So Tiger is spelled TIGER, TI Racing.
Nice. Okay, I didn't realize I had to do it a cat, and of course you are a cat lover. I mean, if you're around Chris and you're racing with him in a league, which would usually be TI. I know sometimes you've run All American or whatever, but usually you have an incident with the cats during a race at one point.
I do. Mimsy has wrecked me before.
This is true. This is true. I'm still waiting for Mimsy to get points taken away for the team in TI. There was actually a Mimsy racing team in that league. But yeah, big cat fan as you've talked about, and so obviously it takes us to now. You've had this league, you've had all this racing going on. What has been like your favorite part of it?
Probably meeting everybody. Like the friends that I've made that, they don't race with us anymore, but I'm still talking with them on a daily basis. The buddies, the memories, the wins, the losses, just the fun that you have. Just kind of relaxing, sitting down at the computer and racing with your friends or watching your friends go fast. It's why I keep doing it. It's why I love it.
And of course, the job with Marion, and I'm kind of tying this together. We won't mention names, but I think one of the cool things that you've done with Marion Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, it's very tricky. You got to get in alphabetical order. With working with them and the position you're in, you've actually in the last year delivered actual vehicles to drivers in TI Racing.
I have, and that's fun too because you have memories, and you get to go meet people that you've never met before in your life and deliver a car, and they're happy as all can be with their car. And you start, signing paperwork, and you start talking about the races and the racing and the leagues, and next thing you know, you invite them out to go get a beer the next night. Just for the fun of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, what has been your favorite? I'm going back to the racing side of things here real quickly. What has been your favorite racing memory that you can think of, or is there maybe a bucket list item that you would like to do as a race fan?
Is it real racing or is it on the computer?
I was thinking more real racing. I mean,
okay, so best real racing experience has nothing to do with the races. It's going to the races with Landon Deerhold.
Oh no!
Oh no, I will never forget Charlotte Motor Speedway. They have this little concession stand, and it sells noodles. And these noodles
like ramen noodles?
$20. Ramen noodles. They cost $20. So me and Landon get these. Well, Landon gets the noodles. I didn't want to pay $20 for the noodles. I don't remember what I got, but it wasn't noodles. We waited in line 45 minutes to get these noodles. They give it to Landon in a paper tray. So this noodle juice starts leaking out all over him, his pants, everything. And as we're going back to our seat, Charlotte's crowded. Somebody hits Landon's shoulder and he drops his noodles.
Oh my gosh.
And I couldn't hold it. I died. And Landon just stares at the ground, blank face, and goes, God Dang it.
There's that line. Which is, there's an inside joke. We like to say that when things happen or that kind of thing. That's fantastic.
Now you know where that came from.
I do. That is awesome. That's fantastic. And before I forget here, yeah, you mentioned Charlotte Motor Speedway. Mertez came to my head. Zach, you guys, he's actually out there doing some of his own stuff out there. How much do you get to help him with doing some legend racing out there?
I've actually went and helped him a few times. That's neat seeing that at the track. Those things are incredible. If you've ever got a chance to sit inside one of those and turn it on, it's absolutely incredible. I'm not gonna lie. When I went to Charlotte to go watch Mertez go around in circles, there may have been some alcohol involved.
Why not? Why not?
Why not?
Why not? And what we're talking about, Zach Mertez actually races in the Summer Shootout Series. That's there at Charlotte Motor Speedway. So that's kind of a cool thing. I just thought about that whole twist, and I know Zach's been out there karting with you guys, I believe, and helps out there. So kind of a cool little tie-in there. But man, that's crazy to think about all that stuff that you have done to get in a race and to take unfortunately one of the blackest moments in racing history and turn that into the motivation to get you into racing and stuff. That's pretty incredible to hear. But there's one thing missing here still.
What's that?
Asheville.
Yeah. So I like violence.
You do like hockey. We didn't even get to that part.
That's where Asheville's gonna tie in.
Ah, I see. So Chris Lewis is a goalie, I believe.
I started out as a centerman.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I was 15, and mom and dad were divorced. Mm-hmm. Me and my mom didn't get along. My mom was from New York, so I thought if I got into hockey, me and mom would have something to kind of get along with. Mom hates hockey, didn't know it, but I fell in love with it. Started playing it on the game, on the PlayStation 2, NHL, whatever. Fell in love with it. Wanted to do it in real life. There's no ice down here.
Right.
But there is inline. So I bought myself a pair of inline skates, taught myself how to skate with them. Found an inline team with the junior league in Asheville. Tried out for the team when I was 16, didn't make it. Tried out again when I was 17, made it, but they put me on the junior team. Got to 18, me and Gabe Serrato moved up to the regular team together. Me and him, great friends. I could throw him a pass blindfolded, and it would go right to his tape. But we played on the infield of the Asheville Speedway.
I was waiting on that. That's nice. Nice.
That was our home rink. So every day going to the rink, I would walk on the track of the old Asheville Speedway.
That's so cool. So it's like it all ties together.
It kind of does in a way. And Victory Lane's right out there in front, and I would walk by that every day. And you'd look at it and stare at it and be like, that's cool, and keep on going to go play hockey.
You ever sit there and envision cars going around that road?
No, I could never envision cars going around that because of how small it is.
Right. I mean, because it literally looks like a walking park. I mean, it is a walking park, but it's like, how do cars fit on that?
Yeah, I have no idea. Like they have bike races there now, and the bikes barely fit on it. So where was pit road at? Where did they park the haulers? There's nothing.
one day we're gonna have to like go look at photos and figure this out. So that's pretty cool. So man, um, that's I mean yeah, it literally ties everything together, which I find that to be really cool. So obviously before we let you go, I gotta ask your favorite hockey game of all time.
Favorite hockey game of all
Like
time.
not actual game, but video game. Sorry, I should clarify.
Oh, video game. Probably NHL 17.
Ooh, so have you ever played 94?
I have not played the real 94, but I've played the game mode 94.
Okay, right, which is in I think 17 or something, or was it 14? One of them came out with a 20-year anniversary, if I remember correctly, or something like that. So, the reason why I bring that out is because like NHL 94 to this day might be one of the coolest hockey games of all time. Of course, I grew up with Blades of Steel and stuff like that. So, but with that said, that's a cool game if you ever get a chance to like go get a. I think it was on Super Nintendo or Sega. Yeah, I forget which one it was, but
Yeah, I don't have any of that. That was actually honestly before me. So
true. But you can still actually go to like a store and find. I mean, you go to one of those like retro video game stores. Like there's some out there that have like a Sega or Super or whatever. But needless to say, man. Well, it's been fun, and it's one thing to say that. I appreciate everything you do, but it's true. I mean, yeah, I've been a pain in the tail on the track, I think, more because, I have that anger issue sometimes that comes out of me on the track, but it's always been fun when I get up there in the booth and always, um, I'll say this now. I know you're always in the booth when somebody wins the race, and I can hear you kind of doing one of those or making little noises to be like, yeah, I'm in here to me. But no, it's always been cool, and I've always said that I've had your back. I know I've been helping you with running the TI stuff a little bit because you're a busy man, and I want to see you succeed. Obviously, with what we got coming up, it's season 10 of the. Is it 10? I don't remember.
yeah,
Of
it's 10.
10 of the ARCA/Gen 4 league that kicks off actually Tuesday, and then the Thursday will be the truck series, the super speedway series. That's a first, and looking forward to all that. But man, here we go, another season of racing. But there you go, I got you on the podcast, and I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you coming on and doing what you've done. And again, there wouldn't be Captain. Well, there would be because there was a little bit beforehand, but there wouldn't be. I probably would not be sitting here today talking to you through an interview on a podcast if it wasn't for you and Jim and the idea of what you guys did.
So you've got to explain one more story before we go.
What do we got?
You got to explain the story of you coming to TI because I don't even know this story. I know the highlights.
You're talking about like the broadcast?
Yeah. You know how I am. You know I only deal with the highlights. So
Right. It's funny. I thought about this in the vehicle today too because obviously I was trying to think. I always envision. I think it's the OCD in me. I always have like visions of like how the interview is going to go, and of course, as I sit here, it kind of has gone the way I've expected. But at the same time, it's like I've through it. All right. So what I remember of it is obviously I had come back on iRacing in February 2020, and I had my dad's computer still. At the time, I actually had my computer and my dad's, and I was trying to figure out which one would work best for streaming. Me and my dad had a league called USRC that we had formed back in 2015 or 16 or something like that. It might have been 14 even. And J.W. Miller, there's a tie-in, had taken over the league after I had walked away because I had just stepped away from the computer. Dad had passed away. And I was like, I barely did any iRacing from like 2015 to 17, just off and on or whatever. And then I got off for a while in 17. And then come back on to into 2020. And I'm broadcasting some of those races again and just kind of getting back into streaming. And I get a message from Jim. Hey, we're looking for a broadcaster for our IndyCar series. Would you be interested? We race on, I think it was Monday nights at the time. And I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah, we can do something. And, he gets me all the information and things like that. As a matter of fact, I can't remember if it was on Twitch at the time or YouTube, but I was on one of them channels. And basically, that's what it come down to because Jim kind of got together with me, and I'm sure he talked to you, and Jim was always there to organize everything. Helping you kind of keep things flowing, and he would always have notes for me in the broadcast. His wife and family would always be watching, and he had his team, which at the time it wasn't called 4D, it was called I can't remember. You had iRacing, he had his team, which had like Chris Evans, or not Chris Evans, but oh my gosh, it wasn't Chris Evans. Chris Evans is GLSR. Another Chris.
Pat Houston.
Was it Matt Houston at the time? Because I remember him having. He had Alex Van de Sant. He had. I can't remember his last name. Chris something, but he was a student at IUPUI.
That's
the time,
Evans.
I think. Is it Evans? Okay, I was
Yeah,
mixed up with another Evans. Okay, he had those two, and then did he have Dan Marrera, or did you have Dan Marrera?
Dan Marrera was on Mimsy at that time.
Okay, so basically, so you guys had your own team. You had, of course, Matt Houston. You mentioned you had Julian Altena. You had all these guys in here that come racing on Monday nights, and here comes this guy that's hardly ever done an IndyCar race, and here we go racing at like, which I'd done some, but nothing like covering a whole entire series at Mid Ohio or geez, what tracks were here at that time? I don't even think Circuit of the Americas was on there yet. But you had like Mid Ohio, of course. We did the Indianapolis races, and all that stuff, and that's kind of how it all came together. And then from there, it was just you and I communicating, and then Jim had to step away, and Isaac Morris, how do we forget him, comes into play and helps you out, and from there we just built a relationship, and you kept saying, obviously our famous "love you, mean it," and you were like, "I love you, you're the man," and I'm like, I don't know what I've done to deserve this, but okay. And then all of a sudden I was an idiot enough to say, hey, I'll race for you a little bit if you want. And then you got to see the worst side of me, which is my racing temperament, which isn't the best, but we learn.
You've never crew chief for Robbie Audi, man.
That is fair. That is so fair. Oh man, but that's how me and Ti came together, and because it was you guys and GLSR that were my first two leagues, which is funny because eventually I'm gonna get Casey Carrington on the show, and he'll share how he actually sent me an email about that same time period, but me and my very bad answering self took like a month to answer him back and said, oh yeah, by the way, I'm filled.
Well, tell him no one communicates by email anymore. What an old man.
Should I tell you how Jim got a hold of me then?
Probably not.
It was all emails from him, Travis, and Facebook Messenger and Discord. I was a team speaker at that time. I didn't even know what Discord was. So
that's true. I remember that.
I mean, look, we'll get into it as we've talked in the podcast already about it. I remember when racing was no more than 6 hours on iRacing a session. So I've been here way too long. So, man, I appreciate it, and go. I know you got some big things coming in your life, and all the best there. And let's get ready for Tuesday night, and let's go have some fun for season 10.
Sounds good, buddy. Appreciate you. Appreciate everything that you have done, because without you, this would not still be here, and it would not have become what it is now with the great teams that we have, the great drivers that we have, and the great broadcast that we're all accustomed to.
I appreciate it, man.
So, without you, there's no us.
Yes, as always. That's true. So, yeah. Oh man, that was a fun interview, and you get to hear the story of how I got involved with TI. Of course, it was them and GLSR when it all got going for the at the time Captain TV, now Captain Esports Network. So, all right, before we take off, believe it or not, Monday night, Miles and Telder, you guys have races to run here. I know, Miles, you're running OP. Telder, I don't have a clue what you do on Monday nights.
I run Thunderstruck Super Series. Short Track League runs Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights. All different cars.
Now, you've won Wednesday night short tracks, right? Already? Or is that another league?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. No, I've already won 2 races in that on the Wednesday night part of it. I've won 1 on Thursday night, and I have 3 consecutive second place finishes on Monday night.
Mr. Excitement.
You're right. And the question is, how many people have you made mad?
Not a single one.
Why? I'm gonna have to go watch this and get proof.
It's
I mean,
short track world. It's short track world. I'm good in that. You know that.
Yeah.
you're good at it, but you've got a good tendency here. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I can save tires on short tracks. I don't have to do anything.
No comment. Oh man, no, that's fun. And obviously, Miles runs OP, which is a super speedway league. Obviously, Saturday night finished, I think, top 5, if I remember you saying correctly. And then their big leagues, if you will, are Monday and Wednesday nights, correct?
Yeah.
Monday.
Monday is trucks. Saturday is Xfinity, the B car. Those are OP. Then Tuesday's TI, Wednesday GLSR, Thursday TI, Friday All American, which should start back when NASCAR start back in February, right?
February
That's
2nd.
yeah, that's you can tune in on that Captain E Sports Network on that one too. Yeah,
There you go. The man races every night.
yeah, all 7 days now. With a new child on the way in February, so he gonna be racing with me.
Why do I believe that? He's got to play school wheel as soon as he comes out, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, all right. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode, the podcast, episode 1 called The Intro. I'm going to kind of do a Seinfeld thing to it and put the at the beginning of everything. I don't know if you ever watched Seinfeld, but basically all of his titles.
Way to age yourself there, Skala.
I'm just, Seinfeld's awesome.
Way to age yourself.
It is still the best TV show almost of all time. Period.
You're just gonna say that like South Park doesn't exist?
South Park's
Yeah.
a good one, but
We're gonna start this right now.
you realize that Seinfeld's making
Sure.
like money that we'll never make still off his episodes 20 years or 30 years later.
I wouldn't know because I've never watched it.
It's a good show about life, basically, when it's over with. So, yes, I did age myself, and it's fine.
George.
Anyways, all right. Appreciate Telder. Appreciate Miles for being a part of this. We're heading out, and we'll be back next week if you'll let us for episode number 2. We'll preview the. We'll talk about how we did in Aurora and what other kind of trouble we caused in the 7 days prior. So, anyways, I guess I should end the show like I usually do.
You can.
Well, I can't say it's not. It's not just a game. It's iRacing. I can't kind of do that. It's not a race.
I know what it's gonna be.
Oh boy.
What is it?
It's not just a podcast.
It's
Skalacast.
All right, that works. See ya.
We don't.
This copyrighted broadcast may not be reproduced, reused, or retransmitted in any form without the authorized written consent of Captain E Sports Network. Captain would like to thank all of his loyal fans for your continued support, and he hopes you enjoyed today's broadcast.